ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to the first of our 60th anniversary celebrations in 2014. It's wonderful to have you all here, and it's a great mix of people, of great supporters of the Chamber, and it is my duty now to, as Anthony said, call you to order. So what I would like to say is that you need not just stand in this room. We can actually use the whole basement of the house. There's quite some nice aircon on this side and that side. So what I like to do now is to ask our patron, Anthony Philipson, to the stage, because we do have a little bit of an official part of this party before we can mix and mingle again and drink the champagne until this finishes. And I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here to Eden Hall on this very, very special anniversary occasion. And I do, of course, mean the 450th anniversary of Shakespeare's birth. Those of you who think you're here for something else, actually you're right. We're here for a more immediate anniversary, which, as you will see from the banners behind me and around us, it is the 60th anniversary of the birth. Indeed, I've declared today St. George's Day is the birthday of the British Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. And if you will forgive me, just let me say three very quick things before introducing our guest of honour, Baroness Warsi, who's the Senior Minister of State in the Foreign Office. And I'm very, very pleased that she's with us here this evening to help make this occasion both special but also ministerially blessed. But let me just say three very quick things. And those who have been to these events, and we've done many events here with British companies and with the British Chamber, may find some of this slightly repetitive, for which I apologise. But the reason they're repetitive is because I think they're worth repeating. The first theme really is partnership. A lot of what we do here at the High Commission, what we do in the UK Trade and Investment team, what we do with you as business is all about partnership. It's about helping each other to succeed. That is at the heart of the government's approach to the prosperity agenda. It's at the heart of the government's approach to returning to sustainable economic growth through exporting. It's at the heart of the industrial strategy. And it all comes down to partnership. I genuinely believe that while you are the ones who are going to do the hard work that returns us to economic growth, we on the government side can play a role in helping you to do it. And that's what we're here to do. The second theme is all about challenge, which is one of the big words in the Foreign Office at the minute that we use a lot. No one really knows what it means, but I think we feel what it means. It's when you start to define it, it becomes slightly problematic. And what I think challenge means for us in the British Chamber is that on the one hand, we are going to challenge the Chamber and we're going to help the Chamber and support the Chamber to do more to help British companies coming into Singapore through things like the Overseas Business Network Initiative, where the British Chamber in Singapore is leading the way globally, and indeed recently was the first British Chamber overseas to be accredited by the British Chambers of Commerce in the UK to deliver business services to other British businesses, and I think that is an enormous accolade of which you and your Chamber should be very proud. And Bridget and her team, and Judith Slater and her team at UKTI, I think deserve enormous praise for what they have done to get you to that point. So challenge, as I say, we're going to challenge you to deliver more. You in return get to challenge us to set our agenda. And we do a lot of events here, as I say, with visiting ministers and visiting officials, where we sit them down with British companies and tell us what we should be doing. And that, for me, is what challenge is all about when it comes to Singapore. And then the third theme is celebrating success, because I think a lot of people, including in this room, but also outside this room, do a lot of very, very hard work. And when it comes to the Chamber Board, they do it for no real compensation, or at least not monetary. And certainly whether you're a past president of the Chamber or a past board member of the Chamber, one of the reasons I think it is so important to celebrate your 60th birthday is because you celebrate the enormous amount of work done by you and your predecessors over the years. And I think that is worth saying thank you. So, those are my three themes: partnership, challenge, and celebrating success. And I'm very, very pleased that we can do this event. This is not the only event that we will be doing during the year that commemorates the 60th anniversary. There is, of course, the awards dinner in October, the gala dinner in December, and I'm sure there'll be others where we can include the branding. But that is quite enough from me. As I said earlier, I'm very, very pleased that Baroness Warsi is here with us this evening, and it's now my great pleasure to invite her to come and say a few words. Thank you very much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. And when Anthony said that he wanted me to come and celebrate the 60th birthday party with you, I decided that I wanted to be here not just because we have an amazing High Commissioner, not just because clearly Singapore is a great place to visit, not just because I'm a huge supporter of a chamber, especially as a northern girl from a manufacturing family. You were once manufacturers, and therefore it's great to see you still here, but because they told me there was going to be a great big cake. So it is a pleasure to be here. I was told that President Obama was actually visiting Southeast Asia. So when my High Commissioner said to me, you're going to be meeting the President, I thought, this is it. But Hugo, you're fine, you'll do for me. But not only have I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. President, I had the pleasure of meeting 5 Mr. Presidents. And I thought to myself, I've heard that Singapore is really the driving force in this part of the world, and I'm going to test the intellect of these past presidents and find out exactly what they're up to. And I first started off with my High Commissioner and said, High Commissioner, what's 2 + 2? And he said, hold on a minute, so let me just check the briefing. I need to make sure that it was absolutely correct. But he said, I think that's 4, and you were right. And I then turned to one of the past presidents, the lovely gentleman from Rolls-Royce, who's going to shake his hands at us in a minute. And I said to him, tell me, sir, what is 2 + 2? And he said, well, I've dealt with some bankers in my time. They know what they're talking about in terms of their figures. 2 + 2, I can tell you, Baroness Warsi, is 4, and you were absolutely right. And I thought, this is really going incredibly well. And then a young gentleman, Mark, came over, and I was speaking to him, and he told me he was a member of the Conservative Party. Mark, wave to us, Mark, where are you? He said to me, I'm a member of the Conservative Party, and I said, well, come on, you're part of the family, but you're also a lawyer. Tell me, what's 2 + 2? And he said to me, well, Saida, we're in a setting which is really a social setting, not a formal setting. If I give you any advice, there's no liability attached to it. But 2 + 2, I can tell you, is 4. And I thought, that's absolutely fantastic. And then I turned to Shankar, ladies and gentlemen. Where are you, Shankar? And I said, Shankar, go on, top it off, make it a full house. Tell me, Shankar, what's 2 + 2? And he said, well, madam, I'm a chartered accountant. What do you want it to be? I have no doubt that Singapore is the beating heart of intellect and good old common sense. But it is a real pleasure to be here, not just because actually the Prime Minister has made it incredibly clear to all of us. He has said that every minister, whatever department they are part of, is a trade minister. That wherever we are, whenever we are speaking, whenever we are visiting, whether it's domestic or international, we should be making the case for Britain. Now, I could sit here and bore you with the great GDP figures, I could bore you with the employment figures, I could tell you how employment is growing, I could tell you how business is growing, I could tell you about how the forecasts are going up. But I don't think that's enough. I don't think we should focus on what we've done, we should continue to focus on what more we can do. And in that vein, Singapore is an essential part of that. The chambers of commerce are an essential part of that. This particular chamber is a beating hub, which is actually an exceptional chamber, not just for Southeast Asia, but much wider. And it shows the strength of the relationship between really the High Commission and the chamber, that it's got such a strong partnership. But I want to finish, ladies and gentlemen, on this. When I looked at the 5 presidents, and I clearly said to them, you've done incredibly well, but what's your secret? And they said to us, our secret is Bridget. And I think Bridget's over here somewhere. They said our secret is Bridget because, as you know, Baroness Warsi, behind all successful men, there is always a strong, silent, driven woman. And that is therefore Bridget, and she is really the focus of this chamber and what makes it so fantastic. But Hugo turned to me and he said, but what about you? What is the secret behind your success? And I said, well, the opposite is true as well, because behind every successful woman, there is usually a man who wakes up in the morning, turns to her and says, darling, do you know where my socks are? Thank you very much.
It's now my pleasure to invite Hugo, the current president of the British Chamber of Singapore, to come and say a few words.
I'll be sure how to follow that. So, Bridget, you still haven't found my socks. And I hope... hope you took note of the phrase, a strong, silent woman. You have many attributes in that sentence. Silence is not the one that I'm most familiar with. Clearly I'm only 1 year in the role, so I need to go and spend some time with the other presidents. And Baroness, I'm delighted to be your date for this evening, and you can leave that other president to one side. It's fine. Very dull guy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is really just a thank you on behalf of the Chamber, back to Anthony for his kind words and to the Baroness, but also for the hosting and the occasion. So an enormous thank you for all the work that's been put in, both by the Chamber team and by UKTI. Thank you also to our sponsors, and I just want to point out that there's a wonderful invitation card, which I think you all have. I would like to draw attention to the sponsors who have helped make this possible, and indeed will continue to help us and support us throughout the rest of the year for our 60th events and our 60th celebration. As you've already heard, we were 60 years old, born in 1954. We don't have a particular day, so we don't know what star sign we are, but we do know we have a full year of festivity, and we intend to take full advantage of that. The one thing I would just point out for you is in the different rooms there are some TV screens that are flashing out the last 12 years of footage from the Chamber. So if you would like to see what Terry O'Connor looked like in the year 2002 and whether Steve has got any taller since then, please do take the time to have a look at the TV screens. That's probably the best indicator of where we've come from and what we've been doing in the last decade. In terms of going forward, we've already talked a little bit about the business networks and some of that excitement, so we are being challenged. I'm glad you're challenging me on stage. We can take that outside later. But it's been a very exciting time for us. So for the last year in particular, we've launched a whole bunch of initiatives. We're growing, we're expanding, and we're looking forward to enjoying a successful 60 years going forward. So once again, thank you for coming. It's great to see so many friends and family here and people to share our celebration. And I think it's time to cut the cake and have a glass of champagne.
Thank you, Hugo. As Hugo says, we will now do a formal cake cutting. Actually, I think he is going to do a formal cake cutting. And everyone else needs to try and get hold of a glass of champagne, because in a minute I'm going to do this in a very short toast. We need a second toast.
I'm looking at
May I just invite everyone, if you haven't got a glass, please just pretend, to raise a glass and say a very, very happy 60th birthday to the British Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. Happy birthday.